Hello again, my little meteorologists. We're going to do science now, and we're going to continue talking about the water cycle. Okay, yesterday you learned some big words as part of that water cycle, and I hope you enjoyed the song and the video story of Drippy the raindrop. That's a good story to help you understand where all that rain and snow comes from. Of course, depending on what the temperature is, right? Okay, and yesterday there was a really good example of how the weather can change in an instant, right? Because part of the sky had big fluffy cumulus clouds, and then on the other side it was darker with some very thick stratus clouds, and the wind came, blew those clouds in, and then there was a little rain, and then it was gone. Right, so those clouds take a long time to fill, and they travel. So it might look really sunny, and if a wind blows some clouds in, then we can get some rain like we did yesterday. Okay, let's look at our poster and recall the demonstration, the little experiment I did yesterday, right? Yesterday I showed you how water is collected in maybe ponds, rivers, streams, puddles, okay? And where does it go? Okay, the sun shines down on it, and the heat from the sun causes it to evaporate. That means it's going from a liquid to a gas, and we don't see that happening. All that evaporation is going back up, and then it goes into clouds. They catch on clouds. We learned how clouds form, right? Okay, and in the cloud, it condenses. Those are the water droplets. Have you seen things in your house condense? Sometimes if you take a cold can or something out of the refrigerator, going from cold air to warm air, you see the outside of it gets wet. That is water droplets. So it's condensation. Or when you get out of the shower, right? Sometimes you see that steam, that's a gas. So the water comes out as a liquid, the steam is a gas, and then it makes your mirror all wet. That's condensation. So the clouds get so filled with condensation, water droplets, that eventually they need to empty out again. And that's where the precipitation comes down in the form of hail, snow, sleet, or rain. So evaporation goes up as water vapor. Condensation forms as water droplets in the clouds, and when they get too full and heavy, they come back down as precipitation. Okay, so I'm going to read you another story using those words to help you better understand. But before we do the story, this is an experiment that you can do at home. So you would take a clear glass, I'll send the directions, with partially filled with water, and then some shaving cream. The shaving cream is going to pretend to be our cloud. And this will show you how and what will happen when a cloud gets so full. And now that you understand all of these words, you'll know what's going to happen. It's going to precipitate into the rest of the glass. So I'm going to make a cloud on top. Okay. And I'm going to use blue food coloring to be my condensation, my water droplets. And while I read, we'll wait, we'll watch, we'll see what happens when this cloud gets so full. Oh, I think I see it happening already. I put a lot of drops in there. That cloud got pretty full, pretty quick. Can you see? Of course, in nature, it might not happen that quick. Ah, okay. So you watch, and I'll read. You have to listen to me, too. Down comes the rain. Rain comes from clouds. It comes from big clouds and little clouds. It comes from black clouds, white clouds, and gray clouds. Right? We learned all the different types of clouds. All clouds, big ones and little ones, gray ones and white ones, are made of billions of tiny drops of water. The drops are called droplets because they are so small. Water droplets come from water vapor. Water vapor is a gas. And we can't see it. Water vapor is made when water evaporates. That means the water changes from a liquid to a gas. Okay, when wet clothes hang on the clothesline, the water in them evaporates. So the sun dries wet clothing and it evaporates into the air. The heat from the sun changes the water droplets changes the water drops and droplets into water vapor. Just like the heat on the stove if you put a kettle on it, right? If you ever watch mom or dad make a cup of tea or boil some water, you see eventually steam comes up. That's the gas. And if you kept letting it heat, eventually the pot would be empty because it would all evaporate and go into the air. Most of the water vapor in the air comes from lakes, rivers, and oceans. It comes from the leaves of plants and from the wet ground. Heat from the sun causes the water to evaporate, turning that liquid into a gas. When you breathe out, you put water vapor in the air. We don't usually see it unless it's the winter time. So have you ever blown out in the winter time, breathed out? It's like you're making a cloud. And at the same time, you're putting water vapor in the air. You can make water vapor change to water. Put a lot of ice in a glass of water. As the glass gets colder, the outside of the glass gets wet. The outside gets wet as well as the inside, right? Because that is condensing. Water vapor in the air is condensing to the glass. There may be so much condensation that the glass drips. So that's condensation. The air holds the water vapor. Breezes carry it from one place to another. Much of the vapor moves up, and away from the earth. The air above the earth is always cold. The higher you go, the colder it gets. When the air gets cold enough, the water vapor in it condenses. The water vapor changes to water droplets, and the water droplets make, you guessed it, clouds. A single droplet is so small you cannot see it, but you can see a cloud. That's because there are millions and millions and millions of water droplets in the cloud. Okay, when clouds are thin and wispy, they are holding only a little water vapor. So our cirrus clouds only have a little water vapor. When clouds are thick and dark, they are holding much water vapor, like our cumulonimbus clouds and our stratus clouds. Inside the clouds, water droplets join together to make drops. When the clouds can no longer hold them, kind of like this experiment here, you see the water is turning blue? That shows how when a cloud gets full, it falls from the sky in the form of precipitation. Sometimes there are only a few drops, small drops of rain that fall slowly. That is drizzle. Sometimes there are lots of big drops that fall very heavy and fast. That is pouring rain, right? Sometimes the drops in clouds freeze. These raindrops become ice drops. This can happen even on a hot summer day. Because again, as the higher you go up, the colder it gets. That's because the clouds and water droplets are high above the earth. Many clouds are so high that it is freezing cold. In these high, cold clouds, water vapor changes to droplets, and the droplets change to drops. The drops freeze into ice. So inside the tiny cloud, these tiny bits of ice start to fall. But they don't always fall out of the cloud. Instead, they may be carried upward by the air that is moving from the earth. Okay, we talk about how temperature affects the weather and the type of precipitation. As they are carried upward, more water collects on the tiny bits of ice. Then the water freezes. The drops of ice have another layer on them. The ice drops are now heavier. So once more they fall toward the earth. But air moving away from the earth may carry the ice drops upward again. Higher and higher they go to another layer of ice freezes to them. The ice drops get heavier and heavier. And they get so heavy that the air can no longer carry them upward. So the ice drops fall to earth. It is raining ice. Right? We had that the other day, like when we had some snow coming down, and I think it was a couple weeks ago we had a little bit of hail. The ice drops are called hailstones. They may be the size of a fingernail, but they can be even bigger, like a golf ball. You see the boy putting a bucket on his head because he doesn't want to get hit with a hail ball? Water in the clouds makes hail. Water in the clouds makes rain. When it stops raining or hailing, the sun comes out. And once more, the water evaporates. It evaporates from lakes, rivers, and oceans. It evaporates from leaves and plants and ponds. It evaporates from a cow or horse's mouth when they breathe out, and from you and me. So we, because our mouth is moist, when we breathe out, we're putting water vapor in the air, but we can't see it unless it's a cold day. The water changes to water vapor. It's carried up and away from the earth, where the air is cool or even freezing. When the water vapor cools, it condenses. The water vapor changes into water droplets, and all together, the droplets make clouds. Water droplets join together to make water drops, and the drops fall to the earth from the clouds. And once more, it's raining because it is the water cycle. Brings water up and down and all around. The water cycle brings water up and down and all around. It just happens over and over and over again. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed doing this little experiment, and you can see the cloud got so full it had to empty out. Like in the song I made up I didn't make it up, I made it years ago. First you get the big, big cloud that needs to empty out. Then down comes the precipitation. It goes up as evaporation. It turns into condensation, and then you get that big cloud that needs to empty out. Okay, so you can do this experiment at home, and you're going to do a cut and paste to show me the water cycle. Right? It looks like my poster. It has everything on it. It has the words here, and showing the droplets going up, the evaporation. I made arrows to show those are the ones going up. I put the condensation in the clouds, the water droplets that are going to get so heavy that the cloud needs to empty out. And then the water collection or accumulation. But we can't do any of that without the sun. Alright, boys and girls, I hope you're enjoying learning about the water cycle. It's fun. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.